Moral Stories by Mark Kids, The Fox and the Grapes.
Once upon a time, in a sunlit vineyard, there lived a clever fox who roamed the fields in search of delicious treats. One day, he came across a cluster of plump, juicy grapes hanging from a vine high above. Fox, looking up with excitement, "Oh, what beautiful grapes! They look so ripe and sweet. I must have them." The fox leapt up, stretching as high as he could, but the grapes were still out of reach. Determined to get his prize, he tried again and again. "Fox, panting and frustrated, these grapes are just too high. I need to find a way to get them." The fox took a few steps back, thinking hard. He then gathered his strength and made one final, mighty leap. Fox, leaping and missing, ugh. I still can't reach them. The fox landed on the ground with a thud, and he looked up at the grapes with a new expression. Fox, sighing and speaking to himself, "These grapes are probably sour anyway. They're not worth the effort." And with that, the fox turned his back and trotted away, pretending that he never wanted the grapes in the first place. Fox, walking away, muttering, "Why would I want those grapes? They're surely sour and unappetizing." And so, the fox learned a valuable lesson that day. It's easy to dismiss what we cannot have and to belittle what we cannot reach. Sometimes, it's better to accept our limitations rather than make excuses for our failures.
Moral Stories by Mark Kids, The Thirsty Crow. Once upon a time, on a scorching summer day, a crow was flying through the sky. The sun was blazing, and the heat was unbearable. Crow, thinking aloud,
"Oh, how thirsty I am! My throat is dry, and I need water to quench my thirst. But where can I find water in this dry land?"
Crow flies around, looking down at the ground. As the crow was flying, it suddenly spotted a pot on the ground below.
"There's a pot down there. I hope it has some water."
Crow lands beside the pot and peeks inside.
Oh no! There is only a little bit of water at the bottom of the pot. How will I ever reach it?
Crow looks around, thinking. The clever crow thought and thought until it came up with a bright idea.
Aha! I know what to do. I'll drop some pebbles into the pot. The water will rise, and then I can drink it.
Crow starts picking up pebbles one by one and drops them into the pot. The crow worked hard, dropping pebble after pebble into the pot. Slowly, the water began to rise.
Yes! The water is rising.
Finally, after dropping many pebbles, the water rose high enough for the crow to drink.
Aw! That was refreshing. My thirst is quenched, and I feel so much better.
And so, the clever crow was able to quench its thirst using its intelligence and hard work. This story teaches us that with a little thought and effort, we can solve even the most difficult problems. The moral of the story: where there is a will, there is a way. The end. Thank you for listening to The Story of the Thirsty Crow. Moral Stories by Mark Kids, The Thirsty Crow. Moral Stories by Mark Kids, The Crow and the Piece of Cheese. Once upon a time, in a lush green meadow, a clever crow found a delicious piece of cheese. Proud of its prize, the crow flew to a high branch to enjoy its treat in peace. The crow settles comfortably on the branch, nibbling on the cheese. Enter a sly fox, who spots the crow and the cheese.
Ah, what a magnificent sight! Look at that crow on the branch, so elegant, so graceful.
The fox gazes up at the crow with admiration.
Oh, dear crow. How beautiful you look today. I must say, you have such a regal presence. I wonder if your voice is as delightful as your appearance?
The crow, flattered by the fox's praise, puffs up its feathers and prepares to sing.
How kind of this fox to admire me. Surely, my voice will be just as splendid as he expects.
The crow opens its beak and lets out a loud caw. As it does, the cheese slips from its beak and falls to the ground.
Ah, just as I hoped. Thank you, dear crow. Your voice is truly as charming as you are.
The fox devours the cheese with a satisfied grin, while the crow watches in dismay.
I should have known better than to trust such flattery.
And so, the fox got his treat, and the crow learned a valuable lesson. Beware of flattery, it can often hide a clever trick. The fox trots away, happy with his prize, and the crow, now wiser, flies off in search of another meal. And that, dear listeners, is how the crow and the fox crossed paths, and how flattery can sometimes lead to trouble. Moral Stories by Mark Kids, The Crow and the Piece of Cheese. Moral Stories by Mark Kids, The Flying Tortoise. Once upon a time, there was a wise but somewhat impatient tortoise who lived near a river. One hot summer, the river dried up, leaving him stranded with no water. As he sat by the parched earth, two cranes flew by. The tortoise is sitting by the riverbank, looking miserable. Two cranes fly down and land near him. Crane, Kira, looking concerned.
Oh, poor tortoise. The river has dried up completely. How will you survive?
I don't know. I'm trapped here. I can't walk far enough to find water, and I surely can't fly like you can.
Crane, Milo said.
Perhaps we can help. We know of a lake not far from here, and the water is plenty.
Oh, please. Can you take me there? But how? I don't have wings like you.
The cranes, being clever birds, hatched a plan. Crane Kira said,
We have an idea. We can hold a stick between our beaks, and you, tortoise, can bite onto the middle of the stick. We'll fly you to the lake.
Crane, Milo said.
But there's one important rule. Tortoise, you must stay silent. If you open your mouth even once, you'll fall.
I can do that. I won't say a word. Let's go.
The cranes hold the stick between their beaks, and the tortoise bites the middle. They begin flying over fields and villages. Tortoise is amazed by the view from above. He marveled at the world below, seeing landscapes he'd never seen before. Tortoise, thinking to himself,
Wow. So this is what it's like to fly. How beautiful the world looks from up here.
The sound of distant voices, children pointing up at the sky.
Oh, look. Look at that strange sight, a flying tortoise.
The tortoise heard the children mocking him from below. His pride started to swell, and he forgot the warning from the cranes. The tortoise mumbling to himself.
They're laughing at me. They don't understand. I have to tell them how smart I am.
The tortoise opens his mouth to speak.
Listen, fools.
As soon as he speaks, the tortoise loses his grip on the stick and falls from the sky with a loud whoosh. The sound of a crash as the tortoise lands safely but dazed on soft grass near the lake. The cranes fly down and land beside him, shaking their heads. crane Kira looked sadly.
Oh, dear tortoise, we told you not to speak.
You were almost at the lake, but you let your pride take over.
I couldn't help myself. I wanted them to know how clever I was. I should have listened to you.
And so, the tortoise learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, silence is wiser than pride, and he thanks the cranes for their kindness. From that day on, he learned to be patient and humble. The cranes and tortoise walked toward the lake. And so, they all lived happily near the lake, where the tortoise learned that true wisdom comes from listening, not boasting. The end. Moral Stories by Amok Kids. The Flying Tortoise.